And welcome back to continuing coverage of the Triton Poker Cyprus Special Edition. Take a look at the chip counts. You see the two shorties, Phua and Elton Tsang. Need some help, but they're on the right side of the bubble. $192,000 lockup, 251.7 for 8th place.
Well, Elton's certainly going to play this. 6 blinds. He folded the 4s and finds this hand to jam on the button.
Thank you.
Oh,
Jack 8 suited has run into an ace 10.
It's all right.
Baccarat mysticism being called upon here for Elton Tsang, who needs help and picks up a heart draw on a 10-high board.
Chop, chop.
Watson has top pair.
And the jack good as well. This overall above average flop.
Oh.
Too many.
Add 7s and queens to the mix now as Elton Tsang is open-ended with the flush draw.
So many outs, the visual can't even.
Oh my God.
Instead, it's a 10 on the river. So trips to Watson, who will absorb the remainder.
Win the time back too.
And then there were 8. As $192,000 heads home with Elton and over $250,000 awaits our 8th place finisher. Makes it 120 to go.
Oh, looks like we're going to have a confrontation here.
Vogelsang found the ace-king in a snappy and authoritative all-in.
You know, it is for most of his chips, but he's not all in, and I think he's going to think Vogelsang can have pairs smaller than 10s. You know, he's only got to call another 1.1. There's 1.5 in the pot, so he probably needs something along the lines of like 40% equity or more. And I think even if you have some ICM considerations along with it, he's well above 40%.
Would Vogel be making this move light in any way? What's my best case scenario? What's the bottom end of his range? I've got to see all cards.
Oh, yeah, wow.
And so the 2 10s do go into the muck.
Yeah, I mean, if he decides he's not making the move light at all, and let's say he even comes to a conclusion that maybe the worst pair he has is 9s or something.
Makes the call off of his 1.5 million chip stack. And in the window is the jack, which gives him the better of the 2 hands here. Watson flopping second pair. Ali with a quick check.
To the big blind defending range.
Oh my goodness. Ooh. Trip 10s arrive for Watson.
I mean, Ali basically never has pocket jacks or 10s. Or aces, kings, or queens, which are all very, very strong on this board.
And obviously Watson's hand somewhat concealed, and he is going to lie in wait and make quads on the river. This is disaster for Imshirovich. How is he going to give Watson credit for 4 10s as played, let alone the improbability of making that hand? And here, Ali has 10s full of jacks. Kicker, not a problem. Pocket jacks, queens, kings, and aces, really the only hands he needs to be concerned about once he faces this either raise or bet on the river, depending on how he chooses to proceed.
Yeah, he's going to bet for value. And, wow, he bet huge. And, I mean, Watson's going to
There's no escape now for Imshirovich, is there?
And, you know, Watson has, between the run out and the fact that he checked, especially the turn, you know, kind of trapped him.
There's the all-in.
So, yeah, he doesn't even use a time bank. But, yeah, I mean, the answer to the question then is he just doesn't think Watson's ever bluffing.
Also a fact, King 8 suited is in a world of hurt against both Imshirovich, who has his clubs covered, and then Vogelsang's ace-king, who has his king covered. And Imshirovich is moving all in front of Vogels.
Yeah, he's going to be in trouble. He just ran into it because
Yeah, and his stomach's going to turn hearing Vogelsang announce all in over the top of him. And the troublemaker with the king 8.
That's nice that you say this. You don't even want to hit a 4, you want to shove, but that's nice.
Flop. 10-8 deuce.
and
Now a flicker, perhaps? A 4 or a 5 would get the job done for Imshirovich and give him a stay of
two-side.
execution.
no.
Instead,
Have fun.
it's the jack.
I lost like this, you know.
There you go. So now you're seeing it, and he actually has 21 blinds with a number of people behind him to act, and did it. But
Running into the ace-king of Jake Schindler is Vogelsang, who has stuffed 2.1 out there. What's a little bit strange is Jake is coming off of a little over 3 million, and he's being asked to stick 2.13 out there. Not only does he do that, but didn't work, as the queen and the jack now work for a gut shot straight draw on a 10-8 board. Jake Schindler having the best of it here. Somehow the 9 rolls right off the deck for Vogelsang as he makes the nut straight. And a 7 on the end. How is Vogelsang going to react, having been bestowed the chip lead? It is aggressively, as his jack 10 suited. Plows it all in.
yeah, he's just going to apply the pressure. Just make everyone play for the entire tournament life. Fundamentally, the 10s were a little deeper. They would have had to kind of 4-bet, test the waters out of position against the 3-better. And, you know, they both had over 50 blinds, but I mean, there needs to be pretty extreme ICM effects if you're mucking 2 10s here for 16 blinds, and I just don't think they exist. So Paul makes a good decision.
I don't know. It's tough.
He's in great shape against jack 10 suited.
I don't know.
Spade. 8 or spade.
Jack 9 tray.
Then all of a sudden,
Yeah. Top pair for Vogelsang out in front of the pocket 10s. But Phua working and not able to hold against jack 10 of all hands. Paul Phua is eliminated,
It's gonna be now, huh?
taking
It's
home
over now for you. It's over.
7th
Oh, not
place
me.
honors
Okay.
here.
Okay.
The players very much acknowledging all of the ICM implications, these big pay jumps, and the shot at that $2 million up top. Drawn live. And
Here we
all
go.
in here from Soyza, squaring off against Moulder. He does have the Dutchman covered.
So Moulder jams the king 10 suited in the cutoff, which is reasonable, and Soyza, probably towards the bottom of the range of hands he would consider making this play with, gets it all in the small blind. It's a dicey proposition, to be honest.
But he has emerged in the lead on the King-Jack tray board with top pair, Rast.
No, I'm not talking about Moulder. I'm talking about Soyza. Soyza, who's played very careful up to this point, really, I mean, doesn't have, you know, this isn't for all of his chips, but it's for almost all of them.
Yeah, for all
Yeah.
intents and purposes, he was pulling at an ace, he came up short, and he's going to double up Moulder and be left with vapors. This decision was for his full stack. Right,
dollars.
Right, just by folding
Yeah.
in that spot. Soyza picks up a pretty good one here to go all in with, just 145,000. You see Vogelsang 3-betting to 300,000, giving Soyza some protection here with his Queen Jack, but also ushering some of the better Queen X or Jack X
Pretty good hand.
out of the door potentially. And advantage Soyza, of course, up until the point that the King Queen 4 flop comes off. And now Vogelsang, the chip leader, has the lead in this pot. No straight possibilities for the 2 10s, and it's 2 outs once for Soyza.
Good game, guys.
8 of hearts, not going to cut it. So not far removed from the decision to play the ace-9. Soyza picks up about as good a hand as he could have hoped for. Vogelsang says run it, and how about that for a flop? Jack 8 deuce 2 pair against the gutty and the heart draw. Buckle up.
Yeah, well, I mean, this flop is just a massive cooler. I mean, you can even see that 2 pair here is just barely a favorite. That's how big of a draw Watson has, and I mean, you know, Vogelsang is probably going to play this aggressively, and I don't think Watson's going to, you know, he's not going to fold. You know, he's the chip leader, and would definitely make this play here light sometimes, putting pressure on a shorter stack with ICM pressure. So, you know, a hand like this, it makes a lot of sense to do it as well. I have a lot of equity, so if I re-raise jam, essentially I get folds out of all those hands. I don't give him that free equity with a bunch of weak holdings.
Well, beyond the card removal associated with the queen and the 10 of hearts that we hold and some of the connections that it interferes with, we just don't have information on Vogel's hand in terms of him just checking back from the big blind. Obviously, we take some hands out we suspect that he would be wanting to put chips into the pot with. So from the 100 to the 400 and now to an all-in in this over 4 million chip pot, the pot of the final table.
Oh.
And the ace of hearts now giving Watson the flush. Vogelsang needs to fill up on the end. 4 outs once.
And Watson with a completely, oh my goodness.
Is that a royal?
Another royal flush.
It's the second
Watson
time we've
finally
seen one.
makes an expression. It wasn't even about making the winning hand on the turn for a, who knows, a pot worth hundreds of $1 million maybe. But making the royal flush, you know, forget $1 million. Making a royal flush, you don't see that every day.
There's a look at how they stack up as we head to the 50 and 125K blind level with 125K ante. It is the 2 Canadians up top and Mike Watson and Daniel DeVoris, followed by Toon Moulder. We know Tom's a ladies' man, and here he is, making it 250K to go.
But yeah, when you know you're going to pick up queens the next hand, why mess around with the ace-8? Ooh, offsuit. Wow, the small blind here. What's he going to do?
Ace-10 of diamonds.
I mean, he's never folding. So it's more, does he call or does he go all in? Ooh, yes. I mean,
he says all in, and it'll be a snapper for Vogelsang, who will be thrilled.
Oh, quads. Even nicer.
That was like villain stuff there. Queen of diamonds is absent the board, so no backdoor royal draws to be had. Well, it's neither limp nor fold nor all in.
Right.
It's a raise to 375K.
So I guess he feels, okay, 1.2, he feels that he can raise fold. So he's raising, but because Jake is so short, he's raising, you know, just over a min raise, 2.5x.
Jake did well for himself with the 8-6 suited, granted in clubs, as he knocked out Andras Nemeth with a big call on the bubble. And here he is making middle pair against bottom pair. Similar sort of spot.
I mean, this is a situation where DeVoris could get into trouble. You know, I do wonder what is...
All in.
Wow, I mean, Jake's not folding this.
Nope. Makes the call, and could this be yet another double up for Jake Schindler?
No, I probably would have gone with fold. Wow, I mean, that lowered his amount of outs to 2.
Yeah, spades acquired. And arriving on the end. is the flush as Schindler will double up to 2.8. Go on, Russ. This spot where you've got, oh my goodness, this is going to be adding insult to injury as Dvoris Bucks were already passed over to Schindler. One pot ago with that 5 tray against the 8-6. Here he is moving all in, understandably, to open the pot from the button with ace-4, and Schindler piles in over the top of him. And the flop, 8-8-6. The jacks sit so pretty here. Turn card is a 9, and now an ace alone will rescue Daniel Dvoris from a 5th place finish. But it is not there.
Good luck, guys.
Classy on the exit, given the fist bump, wishing the remainder of the field luck. Mike decide to defend.
And I think he will. I mean, a suited king here is a big hand in the big blind versus a min raise.
Unless, of course, you're up against ace of spades king, which has you in jail. 4, 5, 6. Watson with the dummy end of a gut shot, but this is not the sort of texture that we presume to be in Schindler's neighborhood.
No, I think this flop is better for Watson. It's definitely a board he could lead some. Totally okay with this play. I think it's very reasonable. And obviously Watson was thinking things similar to me. Now with ace king, I just don't think, we're just not going to see Jake give up at this point, especially not to such a small bet size.
And on this texture, Jake understands Watson is plenty savvy enough to just recognize his range advantage and decide to make this bet without having connected with this board. And this turn is trouble for Mike Watson as he has made top pair. But unfortunately for him, so has Jake Schindler with the ace kicker.
Or just a ton of hands. Wow, he decides to check. Jake's going to want to play for it all. And the way that realistically happens is you bet the turn. And why not? Because you just peeled that king off. And unfortunately for Mike, if Jake's decision to play for stacks by betting here and betting river happens, it's going to be tough for him to get away from this. Yes.
Jake to bet, and you're blocking the king, and suddenly Jake just brings this 550 at you. Of course you're going to make this call.
Of course.
And it'll be even
question's the river.
funkier if he chooses to check the river, and then Jake comes with something even bigger.
Yeah,
Board pairs.
That is not a great card for Watson here. I mean, it doesn't drastically change the board in a way where maybe a bet won't happen. Such as a card like, let's forget a deuce.
Well,
or
what's
3.
wrong with the 5, though, Rast? I mean, we're not worried about Jake having a 5.
Yes, exactly, which is why this is a card. I mean, Jake's going to follow through with his value bet. And Watson, it's tough. Yeah, Jake doesn't have a 5. Is he bluffing? Is he just value betting queens? Like, why not? Right? So, I think Watson, I mean.
Oh, and he knew exactly what he was going to do here because he snap called after Schindler said all in. So Mike had really determined that some decent percent of the time, Schindler is going to be taking this line, looking to bully him off of a hand that was heavily under-repped with a king. And instead, that unfortunate turn of events leaves Mike Watson, who worked oh so hard here at this final table. Moulder will defend with that 6-deuce suited.
And a flop that gives everybody a little bit of something. I mean, the deuce, obviously, the pair of deuces is the best hand, but Schindler's got 2 overs and a gutter to that.
Sure.
Pumps the brakes.
Get your opponent off their equity. That said, stacks are short. You don't want to get check raised. Checking back, the more prudent option. I like it.
Board pairs on the turn. Not a...
with my equity, is it worth bluff betting myself? Do I get hands like queen high to fold? Certainly some hands like queen 4, queen 3, maybe even like king 4, king little. And I think that's the bet size he's kind of found. Obviously not going to get a pair of 2s to fold, nor should they.
And that not a card that rates to be troublesome for Moulder. And we'll see how Schindler chooses to approach.
I mean, Jake has some cards in his hand that are relevant to having 3 10s or even a pair of 8s. And goes for a small bluff here. Now, it looks like I would say this.
$500,000.
So now this is testing your question. How
Into
about small
175.
bluffs that look milky, but the converse thing giving good odds? Will it work? Well, I mean, we're about to find out. But you just...
Oh, my goodness. Well, we just got our answer with regards to how effective this third barrel was going to be. Moulder turning his hand into a bluff.
Yeah.
A fairly tight cluster with Schindler, Moulder, and Vogelsang in that order. $900,000 locked up. About a $500,000 pay gap up to second, and then another $500,000 roughly on top of that. 2 blackjacks in the big. Close stacks here. Advantage Schindler by $900K.
So again, does he go all in, or does he make it, you know, with the ace-8, he made it 1.3. Does he make it about 1.2 or 3? And so he's, looks like he's doing a similar thing. Oh, yeah. A similar kind of 3-bet with the size that kind of feel like these stacks are too short, and for 800,000 more, peeling here as a call is a dicey option, but going all in if you think your opponent's light some makes some sense. It's a ballsy play, but you know, Jake's not light, and he's going to call this.
Absolutely. An even bigger favorite now. 8 on the turn, and it is 2 outs once for Twin Moulder to stay alive. Otherwise, Schindler is heads up, and the 4 of hearts arrives from outer space.
Oh my, Ali. Wow.
A swift kick in the nether regions. He is looking for action. Moulder not going to be the man to give it to him.
Vogelsang really thinking about this deeply here. He's got what appear to be about 7 big blinds and goes with the call.
Does contain 1 over to the 2 10s, but he is coming up empty on the ace-jack-jack board. Checks accordingly. And Schindler fires 200,000 of his remaining 700.
Jake with an interesting tiny bet on the flop. Something that wants to still charge the queen and king over cards. Obviously a board that interacts way better with him, as his opponent doesn't rate to have an ace. Now he might be okay giving a free card and inducing a bluff on the river, or he might just charge his opponent the rest. But the problem is his opponent doesn't really have many hands that can call.
Vogel
doesn't bluff, although realistically speaking, he has one of the worst hands he can probably have. Hard for him to have worse than queen high at this point, I would say. So definitely could find a bluff. It obviously wouldn't work. Jake is just, you know, I mean, all in is under 25% pot, so that's coming, and there it is.
Perceives Schindler to be willing to die by the sword and to be more on the bluffy side of the spectrum than he himself is.
That would be a very adventuresome call.
Yeah. And now we have a confrontation between the 2 Dutchmen. Jack 10 suited in the small for Moulder. He'll start the party.
Yeah.
2 queens from the big and a snap call from Vogelsang. So heads up in the 4.6 million chip pot. The 10 Jack does not produce much help on the 865 board. Turn
It's over.
dims the lights further and drawing dead. The board pairs on the turn. Moulder will pass a package along to Vogelsang.
Well, I mean, Schindler's going to shove the ace-3 off for sure. And
Yep.
I just don't see a fold coming here. Queen-jack of clubs.
2.8 million is 14 big blinds, and while Moulder understands queen-jack of clubs is often no good pre-flop, it's got a good chunk of equity, as we see, against the ace tray, 47%. Ace 9-3 with a couple of clubs, Schindler with 2 pair, and Moulder with the club draw. The turn is a 6. Can Schindler fade? No, he can't. The 10 of clubs.
Thank you.
And that's all she wrote for Jake Schindler. Between the two Dutchmen, Moulder will go in with a better than 2-1 chip lead over Tom Vogelsang, both of them with little to no experience here with the Triton series. Nice to have the new blood in here, and they are living the dream. $1.39 million locked up for each of them, and they are going to play for $550,000. Ivey. King 10 and 10-6 as the players share a card once more in this second hand of heads-up play. Jack 8 deuce, not connecting with either holding.
Vogelsang with an adventuresome no equity bluff here. I do think Moulder, even to half pot with King 10, probably calls. It gets a little sticky. King high maybe being good. He's got a number of cards he can pick up, like a queen or a 9, that give him a straight draw, along with obviously hitting a pair. And so that queen, very interesting. He elects to check, doesn't lead. Vogelsang now with a hand he could continue bluffing with. He has a 10. Likely has no showdown. Slings it out.
Yeah, he does.
That was not a call. That was Moulder returning one of Vogelsang's chips.
Okay.
Vogelsang went half pot again.
Wasn't particularly clear.
Now, Moulder's probably just going to call this. Yeah. I think, you know, with his draw equity and the fact that, like, maybe King High gets shown down occasionally.
Oh, my goodness. The 9 has arrived, giving Moulder the nuts, the King High straight, and Vogelsang the Queen High straight. Is there any path to an escape here?
No, I think we just witnessed the end of the tournament. Yeah. I mean, this is it.
That is ice cold here.
I don't know. I'm already having separation anxiety from this tournament. It's like, I know it was Stockholm Syndrome, that it just kept going and going, and we're just like this battered.
We were shackled to it for a while.
Now that I know it's about to end, I can't take it, really.
Not like this.
Actually, this is the one route where, like, maybe the hero can just find a call. I mean, probably not. Probably not.
No way. Does this look like a man who wants to flatten a Queen High straight after he stabbed at Jack 8 deuce with complete dust?
Listen, I'm just trying to figure out how we can keep going. This is
well, you might be the only person. An all-in and a snap call. And I believe the term in Dutch is nuts.
Always the newts.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Indeed. Tom Vogelsang with an absolutely absurd run out there, leaving him in second place, but he looks both relieved and pleased with the outcome. As second place is nothing to be shy about, a healthy payout, but the champion here today, Moulder.